Smart cities will kill human beings. All creation is a manifestation of life force. Sacred power spots are alive. This energy vortex created a multi-dimensional form of communication so that light beings connected with humans, and from there started oracles. When people are wondering now in ancient Egyptian civilization how they built the pyramids, how they moved those huge stones, I tell them, go to the origin. Civilization of ancient Egypt started 50,000 years ago. Before time, it was ruled by humans that are pre-Adamic. They had a completely different perception of reality. They oriented the gate to the equinoxes. So imagine, they wanted to connect the energy of the sacred power spot to the cycle of life. The gate became an inner chamber, like a sacred chamber. So that's the archetype of Holy of Holies. Every one of those temples has the guardian of the place, the genius loci. Everybody says everything about the pyramids. Everybody has his own theory. But let's start from the beginning. BioGeometry. I coined that word. I put it together in 1972. And the idea was, when you speak about geometry, geo means earth. Metry means measurements or surveying the earth. So in ancient Egypt, the word geometry began when they first used triangles, what you call today the Pythagorean triangle, but it was much older than that, with 3, 4, and 5 knots to create a right angle and sort of to plot the land every year after the Nile flood. So they used to recreate the borders for the farmers. They had to use geometry or this metry, so measurement of the earth. So metry means measurement. Geo means earth. Now, instead of physical measurement of the earth, I wanted to go deeper into life force, because all creation is a manifestation of life force. Life force is the thing that is the energy that runs everything in the universe. It makes us grow, it makes us move, it makes us think, it's intelligent, it moves the planets in their orbits, nothing falls. Imagine so much power and so much intelligence of running the universe. And so this incredible thing, that's life force that keeps us alive, I wanted to have a scientific, let's say, a form of science that would let me understand, but also use life force. So I coined the word bio, because bio is life force. I put bio with geometry, so it would be the measurement, not of the earth, but measuring the life force of the earth, which is the life force of the universe. So this life force measurement became my obsession, because everything, is one form or another a manifestation of life force. And here, the importance of life force to me came, I'm an architect, and as a professor of architecture, we usually teach the history of architecture in the evolution of sacred monuments over in different civilizations and all that. We teach temples, churches, synagogues, whatever it is. So we are teaching style, construction, culture, and all that. But then one day it occurred to me, if we are studying a certain monument and we dig under that monument, maybe 10 meters, we will find traces of an earlier monument, sacred monument, of an earlier civilization, maybe 10 meters down. And then we dig another 10 meters, and here is another civilization down there. If we keep digging every 10 or 15 meters, we find traces of an ancient civilization. So somehow, why did they all build their sacred monuments on the same spot. I mean, every civilization comes with a different belief, with a different religion. You would think they wouldn't build over the older religion, but
different places would mean different things to them. Yeah.
But they always came to the same spot. So I thought maybe there is something, the location is more important than the architecture. Maybe in teaching the history of architecture, I should go into the invisible aspect of the energetic quality of the power spot that makes it so important. You know, in ancient times, in Greek times, you know, the Homeric legends, when Homer was speaking about Helen of Troy, you know the whole story about Helen of Troy and all that. Well, they used to say these are the Homeric legends, you know, of ancient mythology of Greece. And then came a German called Heinrich Schliemann, and Heinrich Schliemann was an archaeologist. He was digging somewhere in Turkey, and he was digging to find traces of a temple that he was digging, and then he found the temple, and they started sort of re-erecting it and all that. And then he was digging in the same spot again, and 10 meters lower, he found traces of an older civilization, an older temple. So he said, I mean, they are superimposed, those layers. So he went deeper. Now, on the fourth layer down there, all of a sudden, he discovers not just traces of an ancient temple, but he finds a huge amount of gold artifacts. You know, everything, a civilization where you have the gold chalices, the gold helmets, the gold jewelry, and everything. He found that, and he identified with the coins and things he found, he had actually found ancient Troy. So the Homeric legends are really not legends at all, not mythology at all, but now they're a historical fact due to the fact that civilizations are using the same spots. So my idea now was, okay, what's so important about sacred power spots? Why is it that important? So first of all, I found that humans identified sacred power spots by looking at animals and birds. You know, they would see the doves or birds flying in a V formation like this, you know, they fly in a V formation. And when they come over a sacred power spot, they start circling around it, circling, as if they feel an energetic vortex coming out. And so the vortex pulls them into it, so they circle for some time and they continue. Now, from that started the first human rituals around sacred power spots. So humans came and started circling power spots, dancing around power spots. Then they found other animals burying their dead in the area. So humans started going to the sacred power spots for burial. And then they found animals going there when they were sick, and they drank from the waters there, which was fresh, and there was healing was happening. So all of a sudden, sacred power spots became, for humans now, spots of healing, spots of burial, that means something related to the other dimension. And then when they went in there, they experienced this energy vortex coming up. This energy vortex created a multi-dimensional form of communication, so that light beings connected with humans in those areas. And from there started oracles. And the oracles meant an intelligence in the area coming from higher dimensions, interacting with the humans. And from that resulted a special character, a special personality of the space. Now they call that the sort of the spirit of place since ancient times. A name was coined for that, the genius loci. Genius is like a genie, loci is location. So sacred power spots are alive. Every sacred power spot has a higher spirit interacting with humanity in those areas. So I asked myself, okay, now how how did humanity interact with the sacred power spots? Now, first of all, I looked at the first thing they did, and that's the beginning of architecture. They found that certain materials sort of resonated with the energy of the power spot and amplified it. These were rocks with a high density of quartz, like granite, for example. So the ancients would go to great lengths. If they couldn't find granite stones in the area, they would go maybe 300 kilometers away to a mountain that had granite, cut out of the mountain, cut a 70-ton boulder, megalithic stone, and now move it 300 kilometers. They would cut trees and put it on the trees and move it along all the way, creating rollers, and then they come to a river, tie them together, create a raft, take that. It's a tedious work. Then they come to the spot again, bring it on shore, take it to the area, and somehow they want to erect it now over the power spots, because they knew with so much granite, they could amplify that sacred energy. They felt this light. They could have it sort of spread in the whole community, in the whole area. So they would dig a hole and sort of push until this 70 or 80-ton stone was erected. Imagine the amount of work that went into that. Now, the second thing they did, they came and erected 2 stones, 2 megalithic boulders, not one, but 2. And then they brought another 70 or 80-ton boulder and put it horizontally on top of the other 2. Imagine, we're speaking about 50,000 years ago, erecting this. So when people are wondering now in ancient Egyptian civilization or the great civilizations we know, how they built the pyramids, how they moved those huge stones, I tell them, go to the origin, because if you go to Egypt, it's a very advanced civilization. So they probably had so many advanced techniques of cutting stones, of raising them and all that. But if you really want to find where is the thing that is difficult to understand, or where is the real miracle in moving stones, go 50,000 years earlier with no civilizations, the middle of nowhere in the mountains, when they erected those, we call those dolmens. Dolmen is the modern name that we call for 2 pillars with one horizontally on them, building like a gate. Now, they oriented the gate to the equinoxes. So imagine, they wanted to connect the energy of the sacred power spot to the cycle of life. Later on, they put other gates oriented to stars or something, Sirius or other stars. But imagine that early, having that knowledge, and then later on they came and covered this gate with earth, mud. So when they covered it, the gate became an inner chamber, like a sacred chamber. So that's the archetype of Holy of Holies in architecture throughout history. And you will find this archetypal interaction with megalithic stones. You will find it everywhere in the world. You will find it in Australia, you find it in Egypt, find it in Europe. If you go and look for it, you will find some megalithic stones that have been erected at very, very early times. And so here, it must be something very important happening in sacred power spots for humanity to spend so much effort to do it. So I started studying how those power spots are formed and how, this healing energy, healing, communication, oracles, and this fantastic properties of sacred power spots, this spiritual connection, multidimensional connection, all that. I wanted to know what is so different here, what creates this vortex. So I started studying. I found that you have underground streams of channels about 80 centimeters wide, flowing in the rocks of the earth, 150 meters below the surface in the rocky strata. And this water is called rock water. It's different than the water you dig in wells and you have water reservoirs underground, because they salinate after some time, after usage. They get more salt. But this one stays fresh forever. You get those fresh lakes, fresh rivers, or wells, and they have a very sacred, let's say, quality about them. Now, when those water veins, when they cross, at the crossing, they create a vortex. And so this energy vortex creates the power spot. Now, I was very interested to say, okay, now we know how they're created. But then when I started studying them, I found that there are other areas that look like sacred power spots. They're energetically very potent. They have vortices coming up, and people can mistake them for a sacred power spot. But those are very dangerous areas. They put stress on the body, and we call them cancer spots. So cancer is a disturbance from earth energy. And so many people many dowsers mistake the good ones for the bad ones. But if I tell them there's a very simple way to differentiate them. If you find a power spot and you find ancient monuments on it, temples, churches, whatever, any kind of monuments, then it's a good one, because the ancients knew the good ones from the bad ones. If you find one and there's nothing on it, stay away from it, because if they didn't build on it, then you don't build on it. So if we are speaking now about crossings, so I thought angles played a role here. Remember when you have light going through a glass prism and it refracts in angles, in different angles. When it refracts, bends in different angles, every angle creates in your mind a color. So angles actually create energetic qualities that we perceive. So, and angles are components of shape. So from here, I started understanding it's the quality of angles of intersection of the underground water that determines the quality of the vortex above it. Now we are speaking about angles, quality of angles. Angles are components of shape. So I found that the whole concept was falling in my lap as an architect, God sent. Now the whole thing comes right all the way to me, angles. So I thought, now if I can decipher the angles and that. So I have angles and I have rotation, vortices. Now, if I take those two and study them, then I found that I could actually recreate this energy quality. So BioGeometry is a design language to recreate the energy quality that you have in sacred power spots through design, you know. So now you could design anything and it creates its own power spot, because not everybody is so lucky to have a power spot on which to build his house. But if we have a practical science that makes you build your own power spots, you have your own connection with the earth and with the higher dimensions in every product you make. So that is the beginning of biogeometry, this language, design language, that brings life force, because creating a sacred power spot means bringing in life force. So life force is the life of the earth. And now we have a science to deal with life force. So I'll explain a bit how the importance of life force for us, for example, as human beings, to make it clearer.
Please.
When we have our senses, our 5 senses in the brain, and our 5 senses, they create our reality. The left brain with the 5 senses can only actually interact with 1% of the vibratory range of the absolute. I mean, 99% stays invisible, but just 1%, the senses interact with that. And then through a process of personification, we create linear time in the left brain, because time is not linear. The time we know as going forward, linear, past and future, all that is created by the senses, because time in reality is multidimensional. It's a multidimensional pulse. This linearity is just one minute aspect out of the multidimensional pulse, but our senses can only deal with that. So we have linear time, we have our senses, and with senses and linear time, we project our reality. You know, the brain takes that together, deciphers it, we create our reality. Now, that means time and space, our identity, even materialization. I mean, solid objects in front of us, like the glass in my hand and all that, they are sensory related. The sense of touch creates material things. If I lose sense of touch, my hand would go through material things. Materiality wouldn't exist. So now this world is a sensory creation. Sensory creation, that means you're trapped in left brain perception. Left brain perception is not located in the left brain, but it's we call it left brain mode. It's like perception. Psychologists call it like that, the mode, left brain perception. Okay, and that creates your identity, creates your linear time, space, creates your identity, creates everything, because without senses, you have no identity. Now, when the senses create your identity, so they're very good, they'll help you in everything, but you will be asked at a certain moment or certain moments in your life to serve your senses, because they created you in a way. So we can get to that later on. But now, you created your world. Your material world is actually a projected sensory perception on the fabric of absolute reality. Okay? Is that clear? So imagine like a bottle, to make it clearer how it's projected. You have a bottle full of sand grains of all colors. Now, the sand grains in the bottle, since they have all colors, when you look at the bottle, you see no color. You see just a gray thing, because they're mixed. The sand grains are mixed. So you don't see any color. So absolute reality is, as far as we're concerned, without sensory perception, it is just a bottle full of sand. It's a grayish nothing, you know, a grayish background. Now, we wear glasses that will show us only one color. Let's say I wear glasses that will show me green or red. All of a sudden, when I wear the glasses, I see patterns. Now I see a green world within the bottle. So it is projected, the green is projected from my brain. It shows me the green patterns projected on the background of the sand. So we project our reality on the background of absolute reality. And our reality, like green, is just one of the million colors existing in the sand. So our reality is really 1% of absolute invisible reality. Now, this is how your brain creates all that. This is how you see your world. This is how you live in it. But there's a question here. For your brain to do that, to create your reality, it must be alive. But that brain won't help you very much. It must be alive. So for the brain to be alive, well, somebody has to send blood to it, life force, to give it life. So, but for that to happen, does this life force come to the brain? That means your sensory reality and the whole world you see, and even the body you touch and everything, is a second stage. There is something before that has to send, let's say, to send energy through blood. Life force in the blood comes to the brain. That means your biological functions have to function prior to your existence. That means not the material aspect of the biological function, because the material aspect is within the sensory materialized perception, but the energetic laws that govern your biological system, they have to pre-exist the life of your brain. So actually, the question is, what runs your biological functions? If not you, it's the universe. The laws of the universe run your biological functions, you see. So now, the laws of the universe run your biological functions. You could ask me, well, that's a very, very nice thing you're telling me, because the laws of the universe are not bound by linear time-space. They're multidimensional, where past, present, and future and everything is one thing. So actually, my organ functions can live forever. So that's good news. Now I can live forever. My organ functions can live forever. I have bad news for you here, that when you become aware of your organ functions, because you now become aware of the materialized body, the touch creates materialization. You become aware of your heartbeat, of your stomach, of your digestion. You pull the material parts of your organ functions into linear time, where they age. But the inner functions are multidimensional. So you have the universe working inside you in a multidimensional way, and they are within a container, if a materialized container that is within linear time-space and grows older with it, you see.
Hey there, inspired souls. We just hit 300,000 subscribers. Touch wood. Honestly, I've got to say something. I don't know what to say. Obviously, gratitude beaming out of it. Touch wood. Thank you guys so much for your incredible love and support at this juncture to celebrate reaching 300,000 subscribers. We're giving away a month's worth of access to the community. Come join us on the inside. This month's guest is Richard Rudd from the Gene Keys. You can ask him anything you want. We do weekly Q&A. There's so much goodness inside the community. You can get access to the community for $1. Just come join us inside the community, have some fun, meet us on the inside. And by joining the community this month, that's how you go into the draw. We're giving away heaps of stuff. We're going to give away a deep dive mentoring session, We're giving away astrology readings. We're giving away, there's one lucky winner will win an annual subscription to the community for free on us. Like, come on in. And also, as some of you started to hear, we're doing these inspired evolution experiences now, retreats to Egypt, to Hawaii, Colorado, hopefully England. We want to go to Stonehenge, some really cool places that we want to get to, Touchwood. And so, yeah, if one lucky winner will win $200 off on an inspired evolution experience as well. So much goodness of it. Like, I'm going to put a link in the caption around here somewhere it's our way of saying thank you so much for your support. Join us on the inside of the community. Come hang out for a minute as well. Go into the draw to win all of these incredible prizes. I probably haven't mentioned all of them, so check the link and all that sort of stuff in the caption, and I'm sure you'll find out more about it. And all you have to do to enter is join the community for the month for the dollar. That's all you have to do. So come join us on the inside. I'd love to say good day and see you there, and just thank you from the bottom of my heart. I feel like I've got a healthy sense of cognitive dissonance to it, like 300 out. Like, what is actually going on? Guys, thank you so much for your love and support. See you on the inside in the community. But also what you just said was like, if we bring the light of awareness to it, it starts to really coalesce it into the 3D more, which almost implies that ignorance, it truly is bliss in some ways, but I'm sure that can't be the case.
What can be the case?
That ignorance is really bliss. So like not knowing about the process is more, yeah, what do you think?
Well, you hit it right on the nail, because if you had control over the body functions instead of the universe running them, it's good that you have total ignorance about them, because if you had control, you wouldn't live for 1 minute.
Okay, so we'd start to atrophy much faster. Yes, I see. I see your point.
Imagine when you become aware with your sensory perception of your body, somebody gives you a manual and tells you, the universe tells you, thank you, we've done our job, now you run your own body. What happens when you run your own body? You'll die in a minute. So it's good that we have no access to that. Now, you see, so this, we're jumping a bit from one topic to the other to show a bit what life force is.
Thank you.
There's another aspect of life force that is very important, because all the shapes in nature, this divine pen, imagine a divine pen, is writing and drawing all the shapes in nature. And nobody reads. You cannot read the shapes in creation. You can only read your own language, but we do not read that. Now, the divine pen, when it writes, it is actually what it produces is manifestation of life force. They're living shapes, living intelligent shapes and all that. When we write or draw, we do dead things. They're not alive. But nature creates living things. So my main concept in biogeometry now was, how do I imitate nature so that when we design things, we design our cities, we design our cars, we design our homes, they have life force in them. They give me life force, and by having life force in the shapes means they automatically integrate into nature. They become part of nature. Because there's a misconception about our identity, our separate identity. You look at your body and you think you're separate from the table, you're separate from the other person, you're separate. This is what the left brain does. It personifies things. Left brain is analytical. It personifies things in order to study them and divide them, and all that has to personify them. In your unconscious light brain, diversity is component of unity. It's just a different way. So in the unconscious level, you are an individual, but equally collective, equally universal. When later, when you leave this body and be on the other side, you'll be multidimensional. Your immortal soul is multidimensional. But here we are sort of separated, but are we really separated from our surroundings? Well, you say, yes, I can walk. I'm not stuck to a tree or to the ground. I'm separate. Okay, let me ask you a question. You live off the life force coming from the sun, from the sun's energy. Well, that's a very good revelation, because we can actually, I tried that. I go in the morning in the balcony, open my mouth facing the sun, and think I can feed myself off the sun, and I don't have to go to the supermarket and buy food, you know. It's a nice thing doing that. And I tried it so many times, but I still get hungry.
Still got
It just didn't work. So I say, why? What's wrong with my body? I mean, something is missing. There's an organ missing somewhere. There's an organ missing in my body that can actually take this. So I look around me and I find, hey, the plant has an organ that can take the sun's energy, transform it into chemical energy. It has an organ that I don't have. So I need the plant to bring the sun's energy into my body. So looking at it that way, the sun, my body is here, and I have my organs here. Some of the organs are inside me, but some of the organs are outside me. The plant is one of my biological organs that is outside my body. Look at it that way. So you can't say, I am one with nature and things like that. No, the real thing is I am nature. You're not separate. Not just because you walk, you think yourself, now you're separate from nature. No, you're not. You're one energetic system, you and the plant. So here, life force connects us together. So now that we're speaking about life force, let's jump a bit to a different subject that has to do with life force. Now, BioGeometry has at its cornerstone this energy of sacred power spots, because this energy has a centering effect and a communication effect. And this centering effect means it connects you. Imagine if you have a circle like this, and then the circle has a center. And we say, where is the center? So I draw a dot where the center is. But if I increase the size, the dot becomes a circle. So the dot has a center. So I draw another dot in the center. But then I increase it, and then it has a center. So where is the center? It's transcendental, it's multidimensional. It cannot be in the same two-dimensional space like the circle. It is somewhere else. It's a vortex. The center is not in the form of a point, but in a multidimensional vortex. And so the quality of that center is what we have identified as the balancing quality of everything in nature, everything in creation. And we used the geometrical language of sacred power spots, because that's where I find the center, to connect to the center and recreate it. So now, biogeometry is a practical science of recreating the center in every action we do, so that, look at it that way, my actions are not mine anymore. My action is harmonized by higher center. You see? And that's a very important point I come to now. You remind me of an important point, that why are we here? Why have we been created? Now, why are we different than other species? Because we have full freedom of choice. Other species don't have full freedom of choice. They are run by the laws of nature. They cannot do wrong. So, and they are part of the divinity of creation. But all of a sudden now, humanity is given freedom of choice. So it can do a big mess. It can, yeah, we create a big mess because we have freedom of choice. But animals, birds, if left to on their own, they follow the laws of nature. So they're living in heaven on earth, to say. But we are creating hell on earth. We're creating havoc everything because with freedom of choice, what do we have? We find that the senses that have created us, remember, sensory perception create my left brain perception. So now that we have freedom of choice and are not governed by the laws of nature anymore, the senses come and say, okay, now you don't serve the laws of nature, you serve me. So now you serve the senses. And that's where everything, where you mess up everything. Now, humanity has not been created to mess up creation. And now, humanity has not been created to work in its very limited dimension in the planet Earth, which is just like a grain of sand in the universe. Humanity has a role to play towards the whole universe, towards the whole of creation. Now, let's identify that role. But humanity has a sensory perception that's only 1%. So how can I, if I only perceive and interact with the world that's 1%, how can I serve or bring harmony or do good work in the 99% of invisible dimensions? How can I do that? So the only way to do that is, well, the animals, they do it. Because the animals, they let the laws of nature run their actions. So we humans should let the laws of nature run our actions. Where do the laws of nature exist? Where is the multidimensionality of the laws of nature? The multidimensionality exists on our unconscious levels that I'm not aware of. I mean, we said the laws of nature run your biological functions. Now, the trick is, if these laws of nature are universal, if I let them run my everyday action, then my action becomes universal. Because it's run by the laws of nature. So my action will bring harmony to creation. I'll be an element of harmony in creation. But those laws are in multidimensional time, and my perception is in linear time. So there's no way of translating them. So now we have the three brains. We have the brain up here with sensory perception. It's in the head, so part of the brain and the head is connected to sensory perception to the perceived world. Then we have two other brains. We have the gut brain and the heart brain. These two brains, they have neurons just like the neurons in our brain. There are neurons on the gut and neurons in the heart. So the neurons in the gut, they don't deal with sensory perception because they deal with the universal multidimensional situation that is there on the first level before sensory perception. So they deal with the laws of nature running my body. So this is a brain. The gut brain is a universal brain connected to the laws of nature that run biological functions. So it's the universe working through that gut brain. Now, the heart has what we call the heart intellect. The heart is connected to the universal mind, to the pulse of creation, to the universal mind. Now, how does the heart bring in the laws of balance, of harmony from the universal mind if it is running in multidimensional time and we are running in linear time? The heart will translate information like any information that comes from the subconscious. Is first it has to be squeezed into linear time. Then through association, it has to be personified in a certain way. So the heart translates the laws of nature into comprehensible values. So the values, when you say, listen to your heart and you do something, in reality, the values of your heart are a translation of the laws of nature that you don't know. So when you put your heart in your work, it means you're giving the reins of your work to the multidimensional universal mind. So all of a sudden now, you achieve a level of excellence. Excellence means your work has reached the multidimensional universal aspect of creation. Now, you have found your role in the whole of creation, not just the earth, but the whole of creation. Why? Because you gave the reins of your work to creation anyhow. But if you keep the reins with yourself, with the left brain, you won't go beyond here. You'll keep messing up. So this is letting the higher dimension run your work. This is what we call excellence of action. And all beliefs, religious doctrines, and all that, although the religious bodies and authorities and all that want to convince you that religious doctrines are trapped in rituals and meanings and all that, rituals and meanings are a way of bringing the life force into your system. Now, you have filled your system with the life force of the earth, with the light coming from sacred power spots, whatever. You've filled your system through ritual and belief. But so what? You're not doing anything with it. Now, the next step is put it into action. How do you put it into action? Don't do it yourself. Bring the higher force. So achieve excellence of action. So if I have to sum all religions, all beliefs in creation, everything, in one word, it would be excellence of action. That is the role, the ultimate role of humanity towards the universe. Now, let us go a step further and speak about some of the problems we have today, like climate change, like all that. But before I go into that, like we said, I have to put on the brakes a bit and give you a chance to ask any question, anything you want.
You're good.
Well, I put my foot on the gas again.
Hey there, Inspired Souls. Spirituality is not something we just talk about here at the Inspired Evolution. It's something we live and breathe with our entire beings. Whether it's in your career, your life, the way you lead in the world, or your relationships, it's at the heart of the way we believe life should be lived. And so if you're feeling out of alignment, or you can feel that there's something more, or you're feeling like you're not thriving in life, touch wood, the way that you ought to be, then we've got guidance to take you even deeper. You've got support from me one-on-one, and you've also got a like-minded, like-hearted community masterminding, master-hearting together through guidance together. And you don't have to take my word for it. This is how people all over the world have transformed through guidance.
everything just kind of fell into place. And now I'm on a path that I actually believe in and I'm excited about because I feel like I'm becoming my best self.
Over those 2 years, I have done so much. I can't believe where I am now. I'm thrilled where I am now. Not only was he a coach, but he became a divine presence in my life.
You can show up to Amrit with all sorts of chaos in your life and you leave feeling completely centered with some direction that is going to get you results. It's just magic when you're in coaching with Amrit. You just flow with it all.
I feel that I have access and connection to somebody who is deeply entrenched in my development.
If you're thinking about it, just do it. You won't regret it.
So what are you waiting for? If you feel the call, then join me on a call. amritsandhu.com/call. Link on screen now and also at the top of the description in the show notes below. Join me in a call. Let's dive in deep to your path, onwards, upwards, and inwards from here. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a call. Go on, I'll see you there. Did want to hear about climate change. I also wanted to understand what you think then, being from the part of the world that you're from and everything you've just shared and discussed. Like, what do you think the pyramids are? Like, because this has really opened up. Yeah,
Okay.
anyway, just one of the questions.
Well, before I go into climate change,
Please.
I invite you to my home here in Egypt. So, looking at the pyramids, you see, everybody says everything about the pyramids. You know, they're built for this and that and that. It's everybody has his own theory. But let's start from the beginning. Now, how they were built, we know that humanity since 50,000 years ago had ways of moving heavy stones. Now, if during the Egyptian civilization, all that, they used advanced tools to do that, then primitive humanity didn't have any advanced tools. So how did primitive humanity use it? I think that primitive humanity, they were like animals, you know. Their main focus of the brain was on the right unconscious side because they were still like animals. The left brain identity was still budding, very small. They didn't have an identity. They were mainly part of the herd, part of nature. And so they lived in many ways, they lived in the unconscious realm. Now, what can a human being who lives in the unconscious realm do that we cannot do in our sensory existence? Well, let's see, for example, what happens in in a moment of danger when you have a sort of this flight response or something that happens. You know, when a mother senses danger to her children, then the subconscious takes over. Then all of a sudden, she has tremendous power. This fight or flight instinct comes out, and all of a sudden, a weak person like that can have tremendous power emerging from the subconscious. You can also see that in this tremendous power released from the subconscious. You can see that in extreme cases of possession, for example, people who are possessed by entities. I mean, we're going a bit in a different field, but just to show a point that if a person is possessed by some entities, demonic beings or something like that, and if you have seen exorcism, I have seen lots of exorcisms, and what happens in exorcism, all of a sudden, if you try to bring out that possessing entity from the body, the body could be a small girl or something like this, has tremendous power all of a sudden coming out of it. So the little girl could just push 6 or 7 persons in the room, push them, they'd fly against the wall from a little girl like this, you know, all of a sudden. So that means that the power of the unconscious, here I'm not going into entities and all that, but I bring an example just to show that if in certain situations. If a person can develop tremendous powers, and that means that primitive humanity who lived in the unconscious realm could have access to a lot of the things we can't do now because they were in multidimensional time-space. And having this access to an inner power, this inner power would be, because it's coming from multidimensional space, would automatically also bypass the laws of linear time that we know. So the subconscious, like in a dream, you're not bound to gravity, you're not bound to all those things, you see. So imagine you bring your dream world out into reality. All of a sudden, you can at will, using maybe certain motions, certain thoughts, certain sounds, certain things, you can activate power from the unconscious, and that would explain how those people moved 70-ton stones, erected them over the others. It's not aliens, it's not something, it is the human being focused in his unconscious realm. He can do that. So now, from that, we say that's the beginning of moving stones. But then we saw how the gate formed a sort of an inner chamber. Now, when they put mud over it, this gate became, instead of a gate, it becomes a chamber. Later on, they put mud bricks, and later on stones, and so on. And from that, slowly to pyramid shapes, to temple shapes, to all those shapes. But if you're looking at the reason for all that, the reason for doing all that is the same reason that they built the dolmen for, connecting to life force in the earth through those chambers. They connected. Sacred power spots are life force intensive areas, and ancient civilizations, I mean, look, if you had their wisdom, why would you use electrical energy or water energy or whatever kind of energy if the universe is using life force, which is much more potent in everything? So if ancient civilizations learned how to use life force, then you should look at those chambers connecting to sacred power spots. All those pyramids and all those temples would be placed on sacred power spots, would interact with life force, would have those vortices. Humanity could actually benefit from this life force. So it's a whole concept of sacredness and sacred interaction with it that flows from primitive temples to pyramids all the way to modern or later temples of later civilizations, to churches, to mosques. Now, you going to a church or to a mosque or to a temple, you're actually going there. It is on a sacred power spot, but I'm going there with a feeling of respect, of reverence, of sacredness, because I'm going there to connect with a higher dimension, because this is my modern belief in my religion. But if you go to the pyramids, the owners are not here anymore. You don't go with the reverence, same reverence you have towards a church today or towards a mosque. You just go as a tourist, throw things around, dance, play music, do whatever you want. You think you can do your own, whatever, your own type of very simple meditations, and you think that those meditations are more powerful than what you have here. And you don't really know that every one of those temples has what we say, the guardian of the place, the genius loci. Now, you are going to the guardian of the place. The guardian of the place should receive you. You should be benevolent. The guardian of the place interacts with your own subconscious. All, as a rule, all entities in nature are driven by the laws of nature. The human beings are the only ones who have freedom of choice. So all entities in nature, they get freedom of choice only through interacting with humans, and they sort of through a two-way interchangeability of information, they sort of get human qualities, and so you are projecting the qualities of your subconscious into any type of entity you interact with. So if that entity is malevolent, is aggressive towards you, it's enacting your inner aggressions. Because in its original form, all those entities are laws of nature. The laws of nature that run all entities. They are there to bring harmony into nature, harmony of creation. But when they interact with humanity, they sort of exchange information. So many people feel that there are malevolent entities, that there are things like Satan, like Ahriman, like Lucifer, and things like that. The harm those entities do is through connecting with us, that they play the inner program that we put into them. But in their own realm, without us polluting them, they are beings of light. They are all forces of nature, and they are all benevolent because they all have a role in that they play in nature. So humanity, for example, I myself, when I interact with any of those forces of nature, I interact with seeing their original nature, by recognizing their original nature, that they are all forms of natural laws. Here they have a role in the universe. All of a sudden, they become benevolent. They do not harm anymore because they become benevolent. In that same way, you go to the pyramids or to any power spot. There is the owner of the place, that spirit who owns the place. Now, you go in, the spirit will interact with you. So, usually, people, when they interacted with power spots, they did that with certain rituals. So even when building a pyramid or building a temple, you couldn't bring any type of worker to work in sacred power spots. People might think that in ancient times they used to bring slaves or prisoners or things and made them work on the sacred power spots. That's not true, because there are rules to work with the sacred power spot. You do not want this vortex all of a sudden to collapse and the connection to be lost. And in order to do that, first, you've seen the animals, how they go to the water. So there are cleansing rituals. So every person who comes in to work in a sacred power spot or on a temple or something like that should be clean and then pure through spiritual rituals and all that, and should be his own master, not working for somebody. You can't send a worker to work on a sacred power spot. No, he has to come to be free, a free worker, like a free mason or a free builder or a free whatever. They have to be free. And from that came the later names for Freemasons, for things like that. It's the worker had to be free to work on such, because it's touching those stones. You have to preserve the original light and purity of the sacred power spot. Otherwise, you weaken the connection. So it was very important to choose the kind of people who work of their own will, certain rituals and all that. We know in later times in Spain, Antonio Gaudi, when he built the famous church in Barcelona. He fasted for 28 days and performed sacred rituals and cleansing rituals before he started working on the church. So it's like reenacting the ancient rituals. So now, if you go to any pyramid or any temple or any ancient mound in your area, know that so many thousand years ago, there were people there looking at this mound as a sacred power spot, interacting with the spirit of place, with the genius loci, because it's the spirit of place who created prosperity and benevolence to the tribe, you see. So people today, they go in the pyramid, they don't know. Some of them stay overnight in the pyramid and they have bad dreams and think demons coming up and all that. What's happening is the spirit of place is connecting with their own subconscious because they go in unprepared. They're not ready. So if you look at pyramids, temples, and all that, all sacred buildings are humanity's way of communicating to higher dimension. In your own body, you have all the vortices, the chakras, all the vortices in the body that connects you to higher dimension. Now, what creates those vortices? It's not as people think, no, the vortices are created, they're higher dimensions coming into the lower ones. No, in sacred power spots, we know that the crossings create the vortices. So it's shape that creates vortices. Now, in the human body, the shape of the body, all natural shapes create different vortices because natural shapes communicate with life. The vortices bring life force into the natural shape. Now, to prove that, I do very nice things. I don't know if I have one of those wooden statues here beside me, but I bring a wooden statue of a human being. The statues that you can move the limbs and all that. Okay. And we can actually find if in a human shape, I can find chakras on a statue. That means if you make something in a human shape or in a natural shape, the outer shape is man-made, so it cannot move to things like that. Even if it moves, it's not growing, it's not alive. But it will house inside it all vitality, emotional, mental, and higher dimensions, and will have an owner of shape. And so I do in many of my lectures, I bring a statue like a wooden statue, and I make the statue, put it in certain positions to emanate the light, let's say, from a certain chakra, and do its own healing to the people in front of the statue, to show them that ancient statues were not just statues. They were collecting life force, emitting them into the environment. And I do this exercise because biogeometry is a practical science of, in biogeometry, you don't ask me, show me how to do this. I mean, no, you tell me, make me do it. Because show you how to do it, you will think that I have special abilities. No, but if what I have is knowledge and a science, then you tell me, show me how to do it. I won't believe you unless you show me how to do it. If I do it, I believe you. If I don't do it, I don't believe you. This is the attitude you come into biogeometry. So, knowing that when people move a temple from one place to another or a statue from one place to another, what they're doing is derouting, moving the statue out of its roots, because the statue is usually on a sacred power spot, or a temple is on a sacred power spot. If you move it, it's like taking its soul away. Now, but if you have to do that, then use biogeometry to recreate a power spot under it. So this is looking at ancient Egypt. Now, I can take you to another aspect of ancient Egypt before I go into climate change. The ancient Egyptians said that their civilization originated before time. Now, this is a critical word. Before time, or septepi means first time, as if the ancient Egyptians existed before time. Now, we unfortunately look at creation as starting with the Big Bang, and the time goes only forward out of the Big Bang. But this is the creation of the electromagnetic universe. The Big Bang is a spark in the electromagnetic universe. But your soul, your higher dimensions, and all that are beyond their compression waves, much higher than the electromagnetic universe. So your immortal soul is not trapped into this electromagnetic universe. Anything that's multidimensional is outside the linearity of flow of light or speed of light. So that's why your emotions can go forward and backwards in time, because the unconscious here is multidimensional. Your thoughts can go forwards and backwards in time. But your movement, your hands, because it's in the material, it is imprisoned in linear time. So we should look at our existence as mainly existing beyond the electromagnetic universe. It's only our bodies that exist in the electromagnetic universe. Your immortal soul is already outside it. So this is how we should look at ourselves, you know. Now, from here, we go back to what's before time. If time, by time we mean linear time. And linear time is created when the focus of perception is in the left brain. That is the beginning of free will. And the beginning of free will is the beginning of the Adamic race. So, I mean, there are races that look like us, they look human-like, that have lived in the earth for maybe 5 million years. They look like us, but we don't know if their perception was the same. Now, their perception was more animal-like. Mainly, they were rooted in the unconscious level. That's why they could, at will, when needed, bring this fight and flight response at will. They could have they could use tremendous forces and things like that at will. Now, if we go before, I mean, the moment our left brain perception dominated, the focus dominated, the door to the subconscious closed. We have no access to the multidimensionality because the door closed. Now, that moment of freedom of choice is the beginning of the Adamic race. Imagine the Adamic race is the moment we humans stepped out of paradise, because paradise is in the multidimensional realm run by divinity. You move into your own world now, into your sensory world. Now, you come out here, you move into linear time-space. Okay, but what about all the other species or human-like species who lived in the earth millions of years before the Adamic race? They lived before time, because time is linear perception of time. The moment, like if you go in a dream, you're outside time all of a sudden, because the dream is on the unconscious level. So you go beyond time. So imagine if humanity before it moved totally into left brain perception, it lived in multidimensional time. That means there were humans before the beginning of time as we know it. That means before linear time. They lived there. That means they didn't have the constraints of linear time space. They had other capabilities. In ancient Egypt, we have chronicles of dynasties ruling Egypt going back 50,000 years. Now, 50,000 years, people look at their achievements, at everything as demigods. They're not like that. They're not demigods. They're people with different abilities. Now, coming to mythology all around the world, I want to stress on a point. Humanity that lives before time in those very earlier times, this is where you had those, what you call gods today, Isis, Osiris, all those people. They were actually human rulers who ruled Egypt, and others who ruled Greece, and others who ruled all over the world, others who ruled Sumeria, and I'm sure there were others who ruled in Australia. They were 50,000 years ago or something, they ruled there. Now, when civilizations came and they want to tell you about the laws of nature, if we speak about quantitative science, we are trapped in the 1%. We're trapped in the 1% of sensory perception. But if I want to speak about the 99%, I have to use a different quantity. Won't serve me here. I use the law of resonance that goes multidimensional. So multidimensional resonance can only be accessed as through a physics of quality. And biogeometry is a physics of quality because biogeometry accesses life force. Life force is not in the sensory perception. It is in the other 99%. So biogeometry uses a physics of quality, and that is why we have a key in biogeometry to deciphering the ancient myths. Now, physics of quality means the components of a formula. For example, in a quantitative world, the components are numbers or letters. But in a physics of quality, the components are qualities. So instead of having a formula of numbers, you have formulas of different qualities. And when qualities interact, a quality is something descriptive. When qualities interact, they interact as if they are stories. So you develop interaction. Now, you develop every formula in nature, you develop a story, but to animate the story, for people to understand it, you use the name of ancient kings as parts of the formula. So now this married this killed this did not. Now, as part of mythology, they're enacting laws of nature. But those kings in their historical reality were totally different. They had nothing to do with mythology. So now, this is a dual nature. Like today, when you say, when you have scientific phenomena and you give it names of scientists, like Halley's Comet, for example. It's not Halley up there. Yeah, Halley was down here. He became Halley's Comet. So this same thing. So you have, for example, Osiris. Okay, there's the identity of Osiris as a king who ruled Egypt so many thousands of years ago, maybe 50,000 years ago or 40,000 years ago. But then there is Osiris in mythology as a science of quality, expressing laws of nature as a science of quality through stories. See? So when you look at ancient Egypt now, that the civilization of ancient Egypt, when they say it started 50,000 years ago, before time, it was ruled by humans that are, by our definition, pre-Adamic. Pre-Adamic means they had a completely different perception of reality. They could interact with multidimensional time-space. That means to them, past, future, present were all one. Up and down and things like that, individuality, collectivity could be merged together. So we have no way of understanding those ancient times that were the origin of civilizations around the world. So this is give you a bit about ancient Egypt. We have in Egypt, I mean, what I'm saying now can be corroborated by, for example, there's a papyrus in Turin museum that they discovered going back 50,000 years of dynasties. There is the king's lists of Maniton that go back 50,000 years. There's a stone in Palermo museum that depicts also those dynasties going backwards. So why should somebody give details about kings who lived so many thousand years ago, giving the name of the king, his wife, his children, his achievements, if he had wars, if he had things? Why would they go keep inventing dynasties for 50,000 years if for no reason? I mean, they must have had a reason. So now I took you a nice trip to ancient Egypt. Okay, so where shall we go to from ancient Egypt now? What would you like to go to? Shall we go to climate change, or shall we go?
Yeah, no, you wanted to speak to climate change, so yeah, happy to jump there. Yeah, tell us about from a biogeometric lens, because yeah.
Okay, now, first of all, as a scientist, I want to tell you that there is a huge misinformation about climate change for political reasons. We, by stating that the carbon footprint is the real culprit, this is a way of putting political pressure on the economy of the petroleum industries in the world, countries that have control over petroleum, like Russia, Iran, the Arab world, and all that. So by stating that the culprit is carbon monoxide or whatever, you are sort of pulling the carpet from under those economies. In reality, it's not like that, because in reality, for example, the nitrogen fertilizers you use all over the world, now they're used all over the world, and everything you eat is using nitrogen fertilizers. They create 300 times more heat in the atmosphere than carbon products. Imagine. Now, we are saying we want to put electricity instead of carbon. Okay? Now, let's look at it that way. Electricity is a main source of producing heat. I mean, any wave that moves, motion gives heat. So electricity is used to produce heat. But so how come we want to use electricity in order to save global warming, when electricity is a bigger culprit in creating temperature than anything else? So there's something wrong here. I mean, we're looking in the wrong direction. Now let us look at carbon. What we say, carbon is bad, carbon is something. Now, we breathe life force through oxygen, okay? And then we emit life force through carbon dioxide. So it's a cycle. Now the plant, which we just said is an integral part of my body, is waiting to take the life force from the carbon dioxide. So nature, the rocks, the plants and all that, they feed on carbon dioxide. So it's a natural flow. So now, if we produce carbon dioxide through combustion engines, for example, the plant will not absorb it. Why? Although it's carbon dioxide, why will it absorb mine and not that of the industry? I mean, why secretions from cows and all that are absorbed by the earth, and there's no problem in because the gases in them are natural, they're absorbed. They don't stagnate, they don't create heat. Because anything that has life force in it, because I'm taking in with oxygen out, life force exchange, one of the things in life force in nature is the homeostasis effect. That means regulating effect of temperature, of life functions and all that. So life force in the atmosphere of the earth regulates life, keeps the earth friendly for the propagation of life. Now, if I create my own carbon, it doesn't have life force. In the earth, for example, the electromagnetic activity of the earth is a life force motion. It moves with life force. It's an intelligent life carrying the electromagnetic activity carries life force. So it is important to my vitality, to my life. But electricity from the router and all that, it's not good for my vitality. I don't breathe it in, but I take that of the earth. Why? Because it has no life force. So when it has no life force, it has no regulation. It cannot regulate things. It cannot be absorbed by nature. So modern technology, whatever it produces, modern technology does not acknowledge life force. So it produces dead things. Without life force, you cannot integrate into nature. So you are producing dead things. And imagine, modern technology is constantly putting dead things into a living body of the earth. For example, let's take, now we're saying electricity. You build electrical cars. Well, we all know how people feel bad in electrical cars, how electric cars are a health hazard. I mean, you get headaches, you get so many things in health in electrical cars more than normal cars. Now, if we are promoting smart cities, you are going to make an electromagnetic intensive atmosphere in a smart city that will cause more global warming than anything else. Why? Because of all the sensors and all the things that you put in a smart city. Well, how did the ancients build their cities? They built their cities like trees. They planted the cities into the earth. How did they do that? They looked at what we call now the ley lines, the grid lines of the earth, where the energy of the earth flows. That whole, you know, you have the electromagnetic meridians around the earth, and around them, around the electromagnetic motion, you have compression waves, creating all type of grid lines. Those grid lines contain emotional, mental, and higher dimensions. Now, this sort of interaction with them, if you plant your city in the life force of the earth, then your city becomes like a tree. It integrates in nature. So they used, all ancient cities in ancient times, they used to put the roads on lines of life force. You know, sometimes you go to ancient monuments, ancient temples, or ancient cities, ancient villages, and you find that a road goes straight and all of a sudden it bends for no reason. Or sometimes, you know, old buildings, you find the building like this and for no reason there's an angle and the building is bent. You see that everywhere in the world. Why? If you study, you'll find that the life force lines in the earth, in this spot, due to underground cracks or something, have a deflection. The people follow the lines of the earth. They put their main buildings on when building a town, they find all the sacred power spots. Now, on one, they put, for example, the hospital. On the other, they put the market. This is where they want prosperity. On one, they put their temple and their hospital. And all those things, they put them, the main buildings are put on sacred power spots to bring prosperity to the town. And then they have the connections between the power spots that we call ley lines. The ley lines connecting the power spots, this is where you had your main avenues. So that when people moved, they moved energy, spiritual energy between the power spots there, bringing more resonance of life force in the town. And then one level to the other, until they bring the roads, they bring all, they bring life force into every activity of their town. So the town was planned to bring life force into every function of the town. So the town became integrated in nature. Now, this, if you go back to Roman times, for example, when Romans built roads to cover the whole empire, to cover the Roman Empire that had most of Europe and large part of Asia, you know what they did? They detected all the ley lines of the earth and built their roads connecting the whole empire on the ley lines, so that when the Roman army walked from one place to another, you know, they were wearing armor and everything, they were heavy things, they could walk for long times and they get regenerated with life force. So they arrive at their destination ready to fight, they're full of energy. So they used the ancient techniques of finding the life force. To do that, they get staffs, you know, sometimes staffs like that. They had people called augurs. They would get a staff and hold the staff and knock it on the ground, for example, over a place that had water, and keep changing their hand in the staff until they find the right length above their hand. So when they hit the staff, the hand and the bottom are fixed, but the top moves. And when it resonates, so I make a mark. This means this is the mark for water. Then I put a piece of gold and move my staff, hit it, and move my hand until I get a line. And when it moves, I make another scratch. This is for gold. And then I have calibrated my staff. And then the top of the staff, you find it, they make it like a shepherd's staff. It has a shape like this, twisting or a spiral, to give it more, so that I see the resonance easier. Now, this stuff was called by the Romans the litus. They called it the word litus, and the specialized people who use the staffs to find water, gold, and all that were called augurs. So they used to go and sort of draw all the lines, the earth energy lines for the city before it was built, the whole city, not just the temple and everything. You find that the pyramids are built that way. Temples, ancient temples are built that way. So you anchored your city in life force. So the life of the earth would come up and in every aspect of your city. Now, the Freemasons, when they came, in modern times, they tried to imitate the ancient techniques of ancient Egypt. The American and French Revolution were immersed in the philosophy of ancient Egypt. So they planned Washington, Paris, Rome, and Cairo according to ancient Egyptian methods of building them on sacred power spots where they had the main squares and then the roads planning on them. So that was the last attempt of building cities according to the ancient traditions. Now you just come anywhere and you think that modern cities are just doing extravagant shapes or going a mile high or twisting your building or I don't know doing what. I mean, you think what I can do with modern technology makes a city a smart city. Smart cities will kill human beings. You need the solution is life force. Now, I don't want to to say what BioGeometry can do, but when speaking about BioGeometry, I would say that if I see climate change and global warming as a time bomb in our civilization that could end global life on Earth, any science today that will not give me a solution for climate change, I don't need it. I need scientists to give me a solution for that. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to cancel electrical energy and bring back carbon up. No, I'm saying use carbon, keep your combustion chambers, keep your cars, keep electricity, keep whatever you want. It's not that, the problem is not there. The problem is how to connect electricity or carbon products or everything to life force. When you connect them to life force through BioGeometry design, because in BioGeometry, we bring the centering, we call the centering effect that brings life force into modern technology. So all of a sudden, your car becomes a healing cocoon. You go in your car, now the electricity in it has life force. So it gives you healing. And in BioGeometry, we have attachments that you can put in an electrical car that will transform it. But if we design the car from the beginning, or the city or everything in a way that instead of making your goal being modern technology, no, you make your goal life force. If you make your goal life, because life force is the intelligent fuel of creation. So while nature is using life force, you think of, I can use other types of energy. If you don't use life force as at the heart of every type of energy you use, we're lost. So this is how we should look at smart cities, at electricity, at carbon. The key is bring life force into modern products. Now, we design houses in BioGeometry using life force. Now, we are, besides our BioGeometry courses, I'm making a very advanced design course in BioGeometry where I'm showing methods of how to harness life force in all types of design, from the smallest item, even from a button like that in your shirt, up to even clothes design, to houses, to cities, to cars. I mean, it will be a whole design course that will take maybe a year, and all designers will be able to access life force in their designs so that their designs are integrated into nature. So this is one of the aims of the courses I'm presenting in the beginning of the year, is how to become one with nature. So do you have any
I've got a couple of micro questions in there. with all these power centers, there is going to be some people tuning into this podcast wondering about the fact that all of the earth is sacred,
Yes.
and that all of the earth is an incredible manifestation. What do you say to those people that sort of questioned whether there are these geo power centers versus actually all of the earth is just sacred in and of its whole? Like, why is the temple any more holier than my home, per se?
Well, everything in earth, like I said, your body, everything that manifests has its own little power centers that are connected to the archetypal dimension. So everything in creation is sacred, because imagine a divine mind creating all that, connecting it to a divine light at the core of everything, so it becomes sacred. But there are ways of increasing it in such areas a bit. In certain power spots, it's more intensive than in other intense. Like even in your own body, your body is sacred, but you can make your hands like this, up like this, and you would intensify a bit the life force. Or you put both hands like that, like what the Egyptians call the ka, and you're intensifying life force. Or like the chakras of your body. If you're standing, a very simple way of channeling more life force into any one of the chakras is just moving the palms of your hand on the level of that chakra. So if I move the palms of my hand on the level of my heart chakra, the emission becomes stronger. I move them a bit lower to my stomach, the solar plexus chakra will become stronger. Because by moving the hands on the level of the chakras, I'm changing a bit the center of gravity of the shape. So you have, everything is sacred, and because everything is sacred, there are different intensities, and we can lower intensity through our actions or raise the intensity. Even our awareness. I have in my first book, I have 3 lines that will help people be aware of those divine centers of light that exist in everything. And so there are 3 lines. The first line goes, "You make me see everything." Because for the brain to project reality, like we said, in the beginning, the brain projects reality out there. For it to do that, it projects the sensory perception. The brain creates colors and projects them, for example. Now, colors must have a degree, each color has a degree of luminosity. So there must be some form of inner light that allows the brain to produce colors and project them. So the divine light is at the center of everything. Now, the idea starts like this: you make me see everything, that the divine light inside me, because life force is divine intelligence with all the laws of nature. So what you are just a self-reflection of the universal mind on itself. You think yourself, you're different, but it's the universal mind reflecting on itself. So it says, you make me see everything. And then the next step would be, I see you in everything. That means I see the centers of light in everything in front of me, as if I move from the outer physical picture to the light centers behind them, as if I see them. And then once I see them, the third line would be, you see me through everything. That means I enter into resonance with them. That means the light, the centers in my body gets amplified too. So you see, you make me see everything. That means it's the divine consciousness that makes you conscious. You don't have a consciousness of your own. This is divinity divinity making you, in my book, I explain the first pulse of creation. The pulse is like this. And the pulses are form of expanding spirals. So it's the divine light coming as a center. It expands to contain a pulse and then contracts. So the center comes from beyond time and space. So it's everything and nothing. The center is within nothing. And now it expands. It becomes a container of everything and nothing. Even the container is everything and nothing. Within the container, creation is created. Duality is created. Centered by the center, which is nothing, contained by the container, which is nothing. Now, in this pulse, for a pulse, you have spiraling effects going out, like two springs, you pull them out, and this is the archetype of mental energy. Now, the ongoing, when the spring goes back in, this is the archetype of this mental energy moving. So there's radiation, now there's going back toward the center. So it's mental energy going bi-directional, out and in. The inward motion of mental energy toward the center, we call that emotional energy. So emotional energy is a self-reflection of mental energy. Now, you need in duality, a mind, a universal mind working in duality needs to have the dualistic effect, that it needs to have the two types of motion, in and out, in the mind itself. So you have mind projection and inward reflection. You have the two aspects of mind. So emotional is an inward aspect of mind. So the mind, we are a self-reflection of the mind itself. We are given a sort of perception. We're given awareness. We're given a divine light to perceive the light itself that is giving it to us. You should look at it that way, So in a way, we are made to think we are separate, but in reality, we are part of the whole. We are not separate, So everything is the divine light. There's nothing but the divine light. And if you want to see where the divine light is, I'll show you a very easy way to perceive it. Now, divine light means it's the background energy of creation, of everything. Okay. But we call it light, but it's not light, because light is only in the sensory dimension, where part of the invisible divine light reflects on objects. When it reflects on objects, you get light. You feel light is reflected light. What is not reflected, you don't see it. It is something that goes through everything. You don't see it. So 99.99 of the energy, of the light energy in the universe is an invisible grayish substance going through everything, and only 1% is light. You can call that dark energy, dark matter, but it's the background invisible energy. And our sensory perception can see only a small aspect of light. Now, in Arabic, we have two different words. We have a word for visible light, the reflected light, but we have another word for inner light, the non-invisible light. Now, let's imagine like that. If I have an object, so my hand here, reflected light comes, part, let's say 100% of this light energy is coming, but it's invisible. 1% reflects off my hand. The 1% is what makes you see my hand. This is the reflected. Okay. What about the 99%? If it's not reflected, it goes through. It goes through me. It's not reflected. Okay. Now, when it goes through me, it carries all my subconscious information in it as it goes through me. I'm part of it, and it's part of me. That's subconscious. Now, there is a small trick that you can do to access those levels. Now, you stand with your back to the sun. Now, the sun's rays, they'll be reflected off your body. That's why you see me if I'm standing against light, okay? But now, where is the 99% of the light that is not reflected on my body? It actually goes through my body. So where does it end up? It ends up in my shadow in front of me. So imagine the shadow on a natural ground has in it the 99% of invisible light carrying all the information of your subconscious in there. So your shadow is in a way a projection of your immortal soul in front of your eyes. Imagine that. Now, you can look at your shadow on a natural ground and get healing. You can heal yourself from your shadow. Well, what? You say, I live in an apartment. How shall I do it if I'm not on a natural ground? How can I do it? Can I put my hand in front of the window? I'll give you another trick. BioGeometry is full of tricks. So I tell you, okay, if there's a light, you see there's a light here above me. Now, the shadow of my fingers, I want to project it on a natural ground. So I can project the shadow of my fingers on my palm. My palm is a natural surface. So it's not the dark side of the finger. It's the projection. It's the shadow on the palm. This is where you can do healing. So here is a multidimensional part of you, part of that shadow. So you see, shadows are very important. That's why in some ancient cultures, you had to protect your shadow, not let anything cross over your shadow or nothing, because you can actually hurt a person on the shadow or bless a person on the shadow. But luckily enough, you can't really hurt a person that much in the shadow. Although they tell you that you have to protect your shadow, in reality you don't have to, because the shadow has the 99% of light in it, this invisible light, and it has such a strong healing effect. All the centers are within it, that it corrects everything. It doesn't get disturbed by something. So the shadow is a very potent way of seeing your immortal soul projected on the ground in front of you. Imagine that's how nice that is, to see your immortal soul, which is supposed to be on the unconscious level inside you.
Completely.
See it right in front of you, and you can admire yourself out there. You can speak to it, tell it whatever you want, because that immortal soul in the shadow it lives forever while you don't.
Inspired Soul Lumen beings, you're obviously enjoying this video, so please do give it a thumbs up and a like and join us in the conversation. What are you taking away from today's conversation? We'd love to hear from you in the comments below, and leave your questions that you would like me to ask in the future as well in the comments below, and I'd be honored to ask them on your behalf. Another question I had, Dr. Ibrahim, was you were mentioning before that there are specific angles that make certain places benefic, and there are certain angles that, touch wood, you didn't use this word, but make places less benefic or potentially toxic. And you said the way to distill it was to see if, the ancients knew, and we could just look at where they built because they had the awareness and they were tuned in. But in your study of biogeometry, are there certain angles that are more optimal than others? I mean, even parts of just looking at, Gaudi's work in Barcelona and the limitations that he placed upon himself to sort of not use too many right angles and stuff like that. Are there certain angles that are more favorous than others?
Okay, now we're going into biogeometry, deeper into it. So first of all, I'm going to correct a huge mistake that everybody does when speaking about things that relate beyond the physical, things in the unconscious level and all that. And that is the word that everybody uses, which is frequency.
Please.
You say, you think the earth is moving into a higher frequency. That means it's going to be more spiritual in the future, or something comes from a higher frequency. That's another dimension. Or some people even tell you the frequency of God is the highest frequency. Yeah, the use of frequency, or that this frequency does that to your body and this does that to your body. All this is using the word frequency, not scientifically. It is using it metaphorically. Now, okay, frequency has a quality. Like in a musical note, frequency, when you hit one note, okay, you hear a certain frequency. So there is a quality related to wavelength. But this is only a basic apparent quality. It's a carrier quality. It doesn't say that, it doesn't give you an indication of what's behind it, because the note you hear is on your sensory level. So you get sensory quality by frequency. But the real effect, when speaking about other dimensions, is in the extrasensory qualities that you don't hear. So now, I'll give you an example showing you that you can't say higher spiritual dimensions. Doesn't work that way, because as an example, if you want to achieve a state of lucidity, of healing, you actually lower your resonance. You don't raise it. You lower your brain waves down to alpha, to 7.8 when you do meditation. Or in deep sleep, you lower it even deeper to 3 hertz. That means here that the lower frequencies are healthier. So you can't use frequency the way everybody uses it. And I'll tell you why. I can get the same wavelength, the same frequency, and produce any quality out of it. Any quality out of the same frequency. So how do I do that? By, if you have a frequency like that, imagine this between my 2 fingers here is a wavelength, okay? And then, so this would be a frequency. Now, imagine the wave, look, a low wave like this, okay? In that wavelength. But you can have in the same wavelength a high wave like this, okay? Another shape of wave. Now, do you think that a wave shaped like this will have the same effect like one shaped like this? A flat wave like that, flat shape, will surely have a different effect than that. Okay? That means the quality of the wave is in the shape of the wave, in the total shape of the wave. You identify things not by one dimension. I can't look at you like this, and if they ask me to describe you, and I say, oh, he weighs 80 kilos. Well, doesn't say much. Or he is 1.70 meters. Is that you? I mean, no. I need a total shape to describe you. So, a wave quality has to do with the shape of the wave. And now, imagine the shape of the wave when it crosses the horizontal line, will always cross it with an angle, a high wave like this, lower, lower. So actually, the different amplitudes give you different angles of the wave. So different angles mean different qualities. So I can shape any wave to give me any quality just by shaping it. Now, once I understand that the invisible qualities of the waves on a multidimensional subconscious level are much more important than the basic one of the wave. Now, I look at it that way. Now I have a wave shape. Now, if you look at resonance and say the communication, a wave will only enter into resonance with another one that's double or half its size. There is a mathematical relationship in resonance between qualities. And then there are secondary resonances, third level resonances, but they are all quantitatively related to each other with different proportions. Okay? That's if you're looking purely at waves from a musical point of view, from what you hear. But let us take a different thing. Shape, the quality of shape. If I have a picture of you and I decrease that picture nearly to zero or increase it, it will still be you. I'll still identify you. I don't have to, there are no certain proportions. I can seamlessly expand or contract it, it will still be you. It will not change. So, any wave shape, its effect is seamless from zero to infinity. So now we have a new kind of resonance in biogeometry, which is the resonance of shape. Resonance of shape means that shapes communicate with similar shapes from zero to infinity seamlessly, without, irrelevant of frequency. Forget about frequency. There's no quantitative aspects anymore. A ball, a small ball like this, will resonate with my eye, will resonate with my head, will resonate with the earth. So actually, resonance of shape is the multi-dimensional language of communication and interaction of information throughout creation. Creation is unified through resonance of shape. You get the unity of creation. All shapes in creation are interacting together through qualities of shape, because the quality of shape is multidimensional, while quality of resonance is limited to sensory perception. So, to give you a small example, you get those little devices like that for massage. Let's say if you have a problem in your muscle, a device like this that produces vibration like that. Okay. Sometimes those devices have knobs that you can increase or decrease the intensity. Now, if you increase the intensity, means you're changing the amplitude of the same resonance. The resonance is the same. You're changing the amplitude, making it stronger. So I can take a device and keep changing the amplitude and measuring the effect of the shape. And so I can find a certain setting to make you sleep, and another setting to wake you up. Now, it doesn't mean that the higher setting will make you sleep or the lower setting. No. For example, I can get my hands like that and I would clap like this. Now you would say, okay, this is a slow one. If you keep doing this, I'll go to sleep. And I can do this. You say this will excite me, okay? Now imagine I can go to the slower one, and by changing the amplitude, that means the sound. Now you would say the stronger sound might wake me up. Not necessary. I can find a level of that sound like this that will make you sleep, and found another level like this that will make you wake up. Or go to the quicker one, like this, the quicker one, and find a level of amplitude that will make you wake up and the level that will make you sleep within the same frequency. So frequency in itself doesn't tell you anything. So people in all fields of energetic fields of alternative sciences, they keep using frequency in a metaphoric way. They keep using frequency in psychology, the frequency of this, the frequency of this. The earth will go into a higher frequency. That means we will be more spiritual. This frequency, that means that. Frequencies don't mean anything. It's the shape, the total shape of the wave. These were, because angles are components of shape and angles are qualities. So you get quality through shape. And so this is a way of going deeper into understanding the qualities of shape,
Incredible.
You can choose the next topic.
The next topic, I'm conscious of your time and your energy and how abundant you've been with sharing yourself
We've been
so abundantly
going
with
on
us
now.
here as well.
For how long?
Yeah.
For 2.5 hours.
And I'm filled with questions and awe. Really, especially when it comes to just the awareness of life force measurement. And I think so much of what is just unseen, and you bringing space for it to be not just unseen, but then seen and measured. And then just how much opens up when we really start to understand biogeometry in terms of, the entire way we see this world. And it's been a huge piece for me in terms of what you said before about, smart cities, and they're definitely not, they're not that smart. Touch wood, they're not that wise is probably what we should say. I can see that there's this deep current in this podcast that you're carrying around the word harmony. It really drives a lot of the work that you do. I think to wrap and to close, I think I should probably ask you why harmony means so much to you personally, Dr. Karim.
Harmony is the road to achieving excellence of action. By producing harmony on the unconscious, harmony is connecting the unconscious laws to the conscious ones. Then you have harmony. Harmony means it's a quality. When we mean harmony, it's not the laws of harmony in music or that. No, I'm using harmony as bring harmony in something. That means you connect. Harmony comes when you connect something to the light centers, the invisible light centers. A centering effect happens. The centering effect. Now, in biogeometry, we have, like we said, the design language to produce the quality of sacred power spots. We call that central quality of the vortex, we call it BG3. BG3 because we use 3 methods to identify it, not to produce it. So one of the qualities we use to identify the center quality is gold, physical gold. Because in a way, if you have the higher dimensions, spiritual dimensions of what we call the primordial ocean that has all the qualities, the 4 qualities of creation, this primordial effect coagulates and materializes in the earth, in not just in rock water carrying the spiritual energy, but also in the gold veins moving in the earth. So gold is one of the things that enter into strong resonance with the center, with the spiritual center. So gold is one of the dimensions here. Another dimension is what we call the negative green, and that is, you see, green is the reflected light. Negative green is what goes through into your shadow. So that negative green would be the gray, the invisible gray of multidimensionality that goes through your shadow. This would be the second aspect. And the third aspect would be a sort of an invisible light in the ultraviolet range, where light beings dwell and all that. So usually sacred power spots can be detected by resonance with those 3 qualities. And we can set our instruments to those 3 qualities to identify this BG3. And then we make emitters that emit this harmonizing energy, this BG3 energy. We make emitters that do that. And all kinds of emitters are here on the table. I see one here, maybe belongs to one of my daughters. I see 2 emitters here. I might just take them and they won't find them in the morning. So, okay. See, these 2 shapes are designed in such a way that they produce here. This one produces a full life force components from here. This one produces the centering effect that we call BG3, the centering effect from here. So when I design things that have the BG3 effect, this will resonate with it. So I can use this healing to bring the BG3 into any aspect of my body, or to measure the BG3 in anything. I can use, for example, if this cup of tea, I want to find a way to bless it, a blessing, or even use energy of numbers in rotation or something to bring BG3 into this, because this is what BioGeometry does. So I can use numbers, for example. So I take this cup like this in front of you, and I do here 2 rotations clockwise, 1 rotation anti-clockwise. Or I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 clockwise. Even numbers always clockwise. Odd numbers 1, 2, 3 anti-clockwise. Now, when I did this, what happens when I use the rotation of numbers? So I take this like that and see, I push it, I put it here. See how it's turning? That means I've charged, has a very strong charge now, BG3. See, if I hit it back again like this to take away all this, and then I do this on it again, the charge is gone, you see. So we can use numbers as I mean, numbers, angles, because numbers and angles are ways of producing shapes. So in biogeometry, you learn all this stuff, how to use angles, how to use numbers. How the whole idea is how to make a shape that will actually bring this divine light into whatever you do. So whether I'm designing a chair, designing a cup, designing a bottle or something like this, my goal is always to bring the quality, the centering quality of BioGeometry in it. That's the cornerstone of biogeometry, is connecting everything to the archetypal dimension and this brings harmony into it. And this is the way to achieve excellence of action at the end.
Wow.
It's endless. I mean, we can stay for another 6
it's
hours.
profound. I mean, no, but also just the excellence of action piece is really, when it's the culmination of all of that life force made manifest. And another really big thing that's going to stay with me today's podcast is the centers piece. Like every time you look for the center, you open it up and you're looking for a center, and you're looking for a center, and you're looking for a center. And it's just...
And then you understand that the center is like a black hole. It's like a vortex.
It's infinite. It's infinite. It's incredible. And to your point, I mean, this conversation speaks and grapples with and tries to wrestle with the infinite in a really incredible way, Dr. Ibrahim Karim. And I mean, I want to thank you for your time and energy, sharing yourself so abundantly here with us today. But also, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't acknowledge that, this is your life's work, and you've dedicated so much of yourself to this and pioneered so many incredible bodies of work in their own right, and then to bring them all together under biogeometry. I mean, thank you so much for you. We're really, really grateful. Thank you, Dr. Ibrahim.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Inspired souls, living beings, you've made it through to the end of another really incredible episode. Thank you so much for your incredible love and support. It is such an honor to be your brother walking this path by your side. You've obviously enjoyed this video, so please do give it a thumbs up. It votes for content like this, spirituality, evolution, inspiration, to be spread around the internet further. So thank you so much in advance for doing so. And on the topic of thank yous, thank you all of you that have subscribed to this podcast. It is not possible without you guys. It's a total co-creation. So thank you so much to each and every single one of you that are subscribed to this podcast. And at the time of this recording, that's actually only 20% of you that are regularly watching this channel. 80% of you, we can see from the back end of the analytics, is actually unfortunately not yet subscribed. So many of you actually think you are subscribed, but you aren't actually subscribed. So please do take a moment. It really helps. So as I'm saying the word subscribe, the button below is lighting up in the colors of the Inspired Evolution. Please hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification icon, join the community, join the movement, spreading love, positivity, and wisdom like this around the planet together. Thank you so much in advance for your support. And as I mentioned, the community, let's go there. Inspired Evolution community, guests like this come on once a month where I step out of the way and you get to ask your questions directly of the guests of these incredible masters that come on and shine their light and wisdom into us on this podcast. And once a week, live and interactive, I'm running guided meditations. We have community offerings, community sharings and circles happening once a week as well. Breathwork, tarot, all sorts of cool stuff going on inside the circle. Astrology readings. It's a really, really buzzing, happening, fun place. So welcome yourself. Come on in. If you're looking for community, if you're feeling the call, if you're feeling a little bit alone, you don't need to. Please come on to the inside. We'd love to welcome you into the Inspired Evolution Circle. That's inspiredevolution.com/circle. There's a link in the description below. And now on screen to keep your inspirations flowing onwards, upwards, and inwards, the next best episode here at the Inspired Evolution for you to continue your Inspired Evolution journey. So go on, take your pick and make your click. I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you there.